She sits on the edge of her bed, phone trembling in her hands. The screen illuminates her face in the darkness of the room. 2 in the morning. She types, deletes, types again. The words form like silent pleas. Are you okay? I missed you today. Send. The message sits there, alone, like an abandoned child waiting for a mother who never comes back. Do you recognize yourself in this woman? Have you been this woman, the one who sends long texts and receives silence as a response? The one who dresses carefully, smiles even when her heart bleeds, gives in to every argument, and still he remains distant, as if you were a shadow he chooses to ignore. You know what I'm talking about. That pain that has no name but lives in your chest like a wound that never heals? You give everything of yourself, mold yourself like clay in his hands, and still you feel like you're not enough, never enough. And then you try harder. You beg more. You lose yourself more. But let me tell you a secret that will hurt before it liberates. If you feel you need to prove you deserve love, you're already begging. If you need to explain yourself, justify yourself, diminish yourself to fit into the space he offers, you've already lost the battle before you even started fighting. You're not loving, you're begging. And this beggar is not you. It's a mask you learned to wear so well that you forgot there was a face underneath it. A smiling mask that's cracking, and through those cracks leaks an ancestral pain that didn't begin with him. It didn't begin with this man who ignores you, who gives you crumbs disguised as a feast. Jung said we project onto others what we lack in ourselves. Did you hear that? You're not begging for him. You're begging for the validation you never received. You're not in love with the man standing before you. You're trying to convince your inner child that this time someone stays. This time someone chooses you. This time you won't be abandoned. But listen carefully. You cannot beg for something that was never yours to begin with. True love is not something you conquer through pleas, sacrifices, or emotional contortions. True love is not a prize you win by being good enough, pretty enough, quiet enough. You've been begging for crumbs at a table where you should be the queen. You've been pleading for attention from someone who should be pleading for yours. You've been bowing before an altar you built yourself, sacrificing pieces of your soul to a God
doesn't see you. Look at this woman in the mirror. Look at these tears she cries in secret. Look at these hands that tremble when the phone rings, hoping it's him. Look at this heart that races when he finally responds, as if it were a miracle, as if it were charity. Have you ever stopped to think why you accept this? Why you settle for less than you deserve? Why you translate indifference as mystery, coldness as challenge, disinterest as an opportunity to prove your worth? It's because you carry within you a wound that was never healed, a wound that whispers in your ear, "You're not enough. You need to do more. You need to be more. You need to become less of yourself to be loved." This wound has a name. It's called abandonment. And it didn't begin with him. It began long before, when you were small and learned that love had conditions, when you realized you needed to behave a certain way to be accepted, when you discovered that your essence wasn't enough, that you needed to modify yourself, adapt yourself, break yourself to fit the mold of what others expected from you. You grew up believing that love was something you needed to deserve, that affection was something you needed to conquer, that care was something you needed to earn through perfect performances, through never being a bother, through never asking for too much. And now you're here, an adult, repeating the same patterns, dancing the same dance, singing the same sad song. You're in relationships where you need to beg for attention, for time, for consideration, for love. You're giving everything of yourself to people who offer you the minimum in return. But you know what's most painful? It's not the fact that he doesn't love you. It's the fact that you abandoned yourself to try to be loved by him. You traded your authenticity for his approval. You silenced your voice to avoid conflict. You dimmed your light so he wouldn't feel threatened. You've been living as a ghost of yourself, haunting your own life. You've been so busy trying to be what you think he wants that you forgot who you actually are. You've been so focused on earning his love that you stopped loving yourself. And the cruelest irony, the more you beg, the less attractive you become. The more you chase, the faster he runs. The more you prove your worth, the less worthy you appear. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on itself, growing stronger with each desperate attempt to break free. You sending long messages filled
your heart, and he responds with one-word answers. You plan elaborate gestures to show your love, and he barely acknowledges them. You remember every detail about his life, and he forgets the things that matter most to you. But here's what you need to understand. His behavior is not a reflection of your worth. His inability to see your value doesn't diminish your value. His failure to love you properly doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means he's not the right person for you. You've been trying to water a dead plant, hoping it will bloom. You've been knocking on a door that was never meant to open for you. You've been speaking a language to someone who will never understand what you're saying. The woman who begs for love is not the woman you were born to be. She's a creation of pain, a product of programming, a result of conditioning that taught you that you need to earn what should be freely given. You were born whole. You were born worthy. You were born deserving of love that doesn't require you to beg, to plead, to prove, to perform. You were born deserving of love that sees you, chooses you, celebrates you exactly as you are. But somewhere along the way, you forgot this truth. Somewhere along the way, you started believing that you needed to be different, better, more accommodating, less demanding. Somewhere along the way, you began to see yourself through the eyes of those who couldn't see your worth. The man who makes you beg for his love is not your person. The man who leaves you questioning your value is not your match. The man who makes you feel like you're too much and not enough at the same time is not your destiny. You are not desperate. You are not needy. You are not difficult to love. You are simply trying to be loved by someone who doesn't know how to love. You are trying to receive from someone who has nothing to give. You are trying to be chosen by someone who has already chosen someone else, himself. The truth that will set you free is this: you don't need his love to be complete. You don't need his attention to be worthy. You don't need his validation to be enough. You are already whole, already worthy, already enough. You are not in love with him. You are in love with the version of him you created in your mind. You are in love with his potential, with who he could be, with who you hope he'll become. But you cannot love someone into loving you. You cannot fix someone into choosing you. You cannot heal someone into staying.
Stop begging for something that was never yours to begin with. Stop pleading for love from someone who has already shown you he doesn't have it to give. Stop trying to convince someone of your worth when the right person will see it without any convincing. You are not apasionada por él. You are trying to convince your inner child that this time someone stays. But the someone who needs to stay is you. You need to stay with yourself. You need to choose yourself. You need to love yourself the way you've been trying to love him. The mask is cracking. The pretense is falling. The performance is ending. And underneath all of that, the real you is waiting. She's been waiting patiently for you to remember who you are. She's been waiting for you to come home to yourself. Today, you stop begging. Today, you start choosing. Today, you remember that love that requires you to beg was never love at all.
Let me take you back to where it all began, to the moment when love stopped being a birthright and became a transaction, to the day when a little girl learned that she had to earn what should have been freely given. Picture her, this child version of you. She sits at the kitchen table, coloring with broken crayons, her small legs swinging back and forth. She looks up with bright eyes, holding up her artwork like a sacred offering. "Look what I made for you," she says, her voice filled with pure joy, pure love, pure expectation that this gift of herself will be received with wonder. But instead of wonder, she receives distraction. Instead of celebration, she gets a quick glance and a distracted, "That's nice, honey." The light in her eyes dims just a little. She doesn't understand why her offering wasn't received with the same love she gave it. She doesn't understand why her natural expression of joy wasn't mirrored back to her. So she tries harder. She makes the drawing more colorful, more perfect. She cleans her room without being asked. She smiles even when she's sad. She becomes good, so good, hoping that goodness will earn her the love she craves. She learns to read the room, to gauge moods, to anticipate needs. She becomes a tiny therapist, a miniature people pleaser, a child who believes that love is something you must work for. This is where the contract was signed, not with ink, but with emotional blood. Not with words, but with silent understanding. The contract that says, if you are good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, you will be loved.
You are too much, too loud, too needy. Love will be withdrawn. You signed this contract without knowing it. You agreed to terms you never understood. You entered into a lifelong agreement that would shape every relationship you would ever have. The contract that taught you love was conditional, temporary, something that could be lost if you didn't perform correctly. As you grew, this contract became your blueprint for love. It became the invisible rule book you followed in every relationship. Be accommodating, don't ask for too much, don't rock the boat, give until it hurts, then give some more. Anticipate his needs before he even knows them. Read between the lines of his silence. Translate his indifference into something more palatable. You became fluent in the language of emotional survival. You learned to give everything while asking for nothing. You learned to smile while bleeding inside. You learned to say, "I'm fine," when you were drowning. You learned to love people who could never love you back, because that's what felt familiar. That's what felt like home. But here's the truth that will shake you to your core. You didn't learn to love. You learned to negotiate. You didn't learn to connect. You learned to perform. You didn't learn to be vulnerable. You learned to be useful. Every relationship became a stage where you performed the role of the perfect woman, the woman who never gets angry, never gets tired, never gets disappointed, the woman who gives without receiving, who understands without being understood, who loves without being loved back. You became an actress in your own life, playing a character that was designed to be loved, but never quite managing to achieve it. And then you met him, the man who would become your greatest teacher, though not in the way you expected. He walked into your life and triggered every wound you thought you had healed. He activated every abandonment fear you thought you would overcome. He became the screen onto which you projected every unmet need from your childhood. You looked at him and saw not a man, but an opportunity to finally get it right, an opportunity to prove that you were lovable, an opportunity to heal the wound that had been bleeding for so long. But you can't heal an old wound with a new person. You can't fix what was broken in childhood through an adult relationship. You saw his emotional unavailability and thought you could heal him. You saw his fear of commitment and thought you could love him into staying. You believed that if you could just love him enough, help him enough, sacrifice enough of yourself, he would finally see your worth. But the wounded healer is not healing anyone. She's bleeding all over people and calling it love. She's projecting her own need for healing onto others and calling it compassion. She's abandoning herself to save others and calling it selflessness. You became his unpaid therapist, his emotional caretaker, his personal cheerleader. You absorbed his pain as if it were your own. You made excuses for his behavior. You justified his neglect. You convinced yourself that his inability to love you was really just his fear of losing you. You told yourself stories that weren't true. You created narratives that served his dysfunction and fed your delusion. You became addicted to the drama, to the pain, to the constant state of uncertainty that kept you hooked. You mistook intensity for intimacy, chaos for passion, struggle for love. The more unavailable he became, the more valuable he seemed. The more he withdrew, the more you chased. The more he hurt you, the more you believed you deserved it. You confused love with suffering, connection with obsession, loyalty with self-betrayal. But here's what you didn't understand. You can't heal someone by sacrificing yourself. You can't fix someone by breaking yourself. You can't love someone into wholeness while falling apart. The wounded healer is not healing anyone. She's enabling, codepending, and slowly disappearing into the needs of others. You stopped being a woman and became a function. You stopped being a lover and became a fixer. You stopped being a partner and became a project manager for someone else's emotional life. You gave and gave and gave until you had nothing left to give, and then you gave some more. And in all of this giving, this healing, this fixing, you lost yourself completely. You became so focused on his needs that you forgot you had needs. You became so invested in his happiness that you forgot what made you happy. You became so concerned with his emotional well-being that you ignored your own emotional starvation. This is the cruelest irony of the wounded healer. In trying to save everyone else, she loses herself. In trying to fix everyone else's brokenness, she becomes more broken. In trying to love everyone else into wholeness, she fragments into pieces. You confuse love with sacrifice. You confused care with self-abandonment. You confused healing with enabling. You thought that love meant giving everything and asking for nothing. You thought that care meant putting everyone else's needs before your own. You thought that healing meant absorbing everyone else's pain. But that's not love. That's not care. That's not healing. That's trauma bonding. That's codependency. That's the wound trying to heal itself through another person's brokenness. You weren't loving him. You were trying to love the wounded child inside yourself through him. You weren't healing him. You were trying to heal your own abandonment wound through his attention. You weren't fixing him. You were trying to fix the relationship you never had with your parents through him. Every man became your father. Every relationship became your childhood. Every rejection became the original rejection. Every abandonment became the primal abandonment. You kept trying to rewrite the story, to get a different ending, to finally be chosen, to finally be enough. But you can't rewrite the past through the present. You can't heal childhood wounds through adult relationships. You can't get the love you needed as a child from someone who can't love you as an adult. The confusion between love and acceptance runs so deep that you can't tell the difference anymore. You think you want love, but what you really want is acceptance. You think you want to be chosen, but what you really want is to be seen. You think you want to be loved, but what you really want is to be validated. This is why you settle for crumbs. This is why you accept less than you deserve. This is why you make excuses for unacceptable behavior. Because deep down, you don't believe you deserve more. Deep down, you believe that this is all you're worth. Deep down, you believe that being chosen at all is better than not being chosen at all. If you feel relief when receiving crumbs, it's because you've lived your life famished. If you feel grateful for the bare minimum, it's because you've been conditioned to expect nothing. If you feel lucky to be with someone who treats you poorly, it's because you've been programmed to believe that's all you deserve. But here's the truth that will set you free. You don't want love. You want to be accepted, even broken. You want to be chosen, even diminished. You want to be wanted, even when you're not being honored.
Confuse the desperate need for acceptance with the desire for love. Jung spoke of the complex of abandonment, the repetition of ancient pain through modern relationships. You are not living in the present. You are living in the past. Every relationship is a reenactment of your original wound. Every man is a stand-in for the love you never received. Every interaction is an attempt to heal what was broken long ago. You are not begging for his love. You are begging for the love you never received as a child. You are not trying to win his attention. You are trying to win the attention you never had. You are not trying to earn his approval. You are trying to earn the approval that was withheld from you when you needed it most. This is why the pattern repeats. This is why you keep attracting the same type of man. This is why you keep having the same relationship with different faces. Because you're not actually relating to him. You're relating to the wound. You're not actually loving him. You're loving the possibility of finally being loved. But the child who was abandoned is not the woman who deserves to be loved. The child who was neglected is not the woman who deserves to be chosen. The child who was wounded is not the woman who deserves to be healed. You are not that child anymore. You are a woman who has the power to choose differently. The contract you signed in childhood is not binding. The agreements you made in innocence can be broken in wisdom. The patterns you learned in survival can be unlearned in sovereignty. You are not doomed to repeat the past. You are not condemned to suffer the same wounds forever. But first, you must see the pattern. You must recognize the wound. You must understand that what you call love is often trauma. What you call connection is often codependency. What you call healing is often enabling. You must stop trying to get from him what you never got from them. You must stop trying to heal through him what was broken by them. You must stop trying to prove to him what you could never prove to them. The little girl who learned that love was conditional is not the woman who deserves unconditional love. The little girl who learned that she had to earn affection is not the woman who deserves to be cherished. The little girl who learned that she had to be perfect to be loved is not the woman who deserves to be accepted exactly as she is. You are not that little girl anymore.
Contract. You are a woman who can choose a different story. You are a woman who can break the pattern that has been running your life. But you cannot break what you cannot see. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. You cannot change what you do not understand. And understanding begins with seeing the truth of where this all began, in the moment when love became a contract, when acceptance became a performance,
when your worth became something you had to prove instead of something you inherently possessed. The mirror doesn't lie. Look into it now and see her, the woman you were before you learned to beg. She's still there, beneath the layers of conditioning, beneath the masks of performance, beneath the wounds that taught you to make yourself small. She's been waiting for you to remember who you are. You were born whole. You came into this world complete, perfect, deserving of love simply because you existed. You didn't need to earn your first breath. You didn't need to prove your worth to receive your mother's milk. You didn't need to perform to deserve care. You were born with an inherent right to be loved, to be seen, to be chosen. But then the world taught you otherwise. The world taught you to fragment yourself, to divide your wholeness into acceptable pieces. You learned to show only the parts of yourself that were welcomed, to hide the parts that were rejected. You learned to be who others needed you to be, instead of who you actually were. This is not your fault. This is not your failure. This is what happens when a whole being tries to survive in a world that demands conformity. This is what happens when an authentic soul tries to love people who can only accept performance. This is what happens when a complete woman tries to fit into spaces too small for her magnitude. But now you must begin the journey back to yourself. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, of integrating all the parts of yourself that you scattered in the name of being loved. It is the journey from fragmentation to wholeness, from performance to authenticity, from begging to choosing. Individuation is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you always were. It is about collecting the pieces of yourself that you left in other people's hands. It is about coming home to the woman you were before the world taught you to be someone else.
Creation of trauma, a survival mechanism, a character you learn to play. But beneath her desperate performance lives your true self, the woman who knows her worth, who chooses her battles, who loves from fullness rather than emptiness. This journey begins with a single revolutionary act. You stop begging. You stop pleading for attention from someone who has already shown you they don't have it to give. You stop trying to convince someone of your value when the right person will see it without any convincing. You stop performing for love and start embodying it. But stopping the begging is not enough. You must also start choosing. You must choose yourself in every moment when you used to choose him. You must choose your peace over his presence. You must choose your growth over his approval. You must choose your authentic self over his acceptable version of you. Picture this. There is an altar in your heart where you have been sacrificing pieces of yourself. On this altar lie your dreams deferred, your voice silenced, your needs ignored, your boundaries crossed. Fresh flowers once adorned this altar, but now they are wilted, brown, decaying. The altar that was meant to honor your divine feminine has become a place of self-sacrifice. Today, you dismantle this altar. You remove each wilted flower, each broken promise, each betrayal of yourself. You reclaim every piece of your power that you placed on this altar. You take back every dream you sacrificed, every voice you silenced, every boundary you dissolved. The dismantling is not violent. It is gentle, reverent, necessary. You are not destroying something sacred. You are reclaiming something that was never meant to be sacrificed. You are taking back what was always yours.
As you dismantle the altar of self-sacrifice, you begin to build something new. You build an altar to your authentic self. You place fresh flowers there, flowers that represent your dreams, your voice, your needs, your boundaries. You honor the woman you are becoming, the woman you always were beneath the performance. This is not selfish. This is sacred. This is not narcissistic. This is necessary. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot love others authentically if you do not love yourself authentically. You cannot choose others wisely if you do not choose yourself first. The chained heart begins to open. For so long you have kept your heart locked away, afraid that if you opened it fully, you would be hurt again.
A closed heart cannot receive love, even when it's offered. A chained heart cannot give love, even when it's needed. A guarded heart cannot experience love, even when it's present. The key to these chains is not in his hands. It never was. The key is in your hands. It always has been. You are the one who chained your heart in the first place, trying to protect it from pain. But in protecting it from pain, you also protected it from love. In keeping others out, you also kept yourself locked in. The chains fall away not because someone finally loves you correctly, but because you finally choose to love yourself completely. The heart opens not because you found the right person, but because you became the right person. The person who can receive love, give love, and be love. Look into the mirror of your soul and see the child you once were. She is not broken. She is not damaged. She is not unworthy. She was simply taught to believe these things about herself. She was conditioned to see herself through the eyes of those who could not see her true worth. Speak to this child with the voice of the woman you have become. Tell her she is enough. Tell her she is worthy. Tell her she is lovable exactly as she is. Tell her she doesn't need to earn love, perform for attention, or beg for acceptance. Tell her she is already whole, already complete, already perfect. The child begins to smile. The woman begins to remember. The mask begins to crack, not from pain this time, but from the pressure of truth breaking through. The real face emerges. Your face, your true face, the face you were born with before the world taught you to hide it. You are not difficult to love. You are not too much. You are not too demanding. You are not too sensitive. You are not too intense. You are exactly as you were meant to be. If someone finds you difficult to love, it's not because you're unlovable. It's because they don't know how to love authentically. You have been trying to be loved by people who are not capable of loving anyone, including themselves. You have been trying to receive from empty wells, to be nourished by barren ground, to be filled by people who are themselves empty. True love doesn't need to be begged for. It doesn't need to be earned. It doesn't need to be proven. True love recognizes itself. True love chooses naturally. True love flows freely from one whole being to another whole being. The love you have been seeking cannot be found in someone else.
It can only be found in yourself. The acceptance you have been craving cannot be given by another. It can only be given by you. The validation you've been desperate for cannot come from outside. It can only come from within. This is the great paradox of love. You cannot receive what you do not give to yourself. You cannot be loved by others in a way that you do not love yourself. You cannot be chosen by someone else if you do not choose yourself first. The man who is meant for you will not make you beg. He will not make you prove your worth. He will not make you perform for his attention. He will see your value immediately and consistently. He will choose you not because you convinced him to, but because he cannot imagine choosing anyone else. But he cannot find you while you are busy begging for love from someone else. He cannot choose you while you are busy trying to force someone else to choose you. He cannot love you while you are busy convincing someone else to love you. You must become unavailable to those who do not see your worth. You must become unreachable to those who treat you as an option. You must become invisible to those who take your light for granted. Not through games or manipulation, but through self-respect and self-love. The woman who knows her worth does not beg for love. She does not chase after people who run from her. She does not try to convince anyone of her value. She simply embodies her worth so completely that the right people are drawn to her naturally. This is not about becoming cold or distant. This is about becoming warm to yourself, present to yourself, devoted to yourself. This is about filling your own cup so completely that you overflow with love, rather than trying to fill yourself from other people's empty cups. The butterfly emerges from the cocoon. For so long you have been in the darkness, in the struggle, in the transformation. You have been dissolving, changing, becoming, and now you emerge not as the caterpillar you once were, but as the butterfly you were always meant to be. The butterfly does not beg flowers to let her land. She simply flies from flower to flower, choosing where to rest, where to feed, where to share her beauty. She does not convince anyone of her worth. She simply embodies it so completely that the whole garden is drawn to her presence. You are the butterfly. You are the garden. You are the flower and the bee and the sunshine. You are complete within yourself. You do not need anyone
else to make you whole, to make you worthy, to make you enough. The crown that you have been waiting for someone else to place on your head has always been yours. You do not need to be chosen as queen. You already are the queen. You do not need to be crowned. You need to remember that you already wear the crown. Place the crown on your own head. Acknowledge your own sovereignty. Claim your own throne. Rule your own kingdom. You are not a subject waiting for a king. You are a queen ruling your own domain. Today, you tear up the contract that says you must earn love, the contract that says you must prove your worth, the contract that says you must beg for what should be freely given. You tear it up and watch the pieces burn in golden flames. The contract is dissolved. The agreement is voided. The terms are no longer binding. You are free to love and be loved without conditions. You are free to choose and be chosen without performance. You are free to be yourself without apology. You are not desperate. You're discerning. You are not needy. You are worthy. You are not difficult to love. You are simply selective about who gets the privilege of loving you. Love finds you where you do not abandon yourself. Love chooses you where you choose yourself. Love honors you where you honor yourself. Love meets you where you meet yourself with complete acceptance. The woman who begs for love is a stranger to you now. You remember her. You have compassion for her, but you are no longer her. You are the woman who chooses love, who embodies love, who is love.
If this message has awakened something in you, if these words have touched the place in your heart that has been sleeping, then you are ready to begin. You are ready to stop begging and start choosing. You are ready to stop performing and start being. You are ready to stop seeking love and start embodying it. Leave a heart if you choose yourself. Write, "I choose me," if you are ready to tear up the contract. Share this with another woman who has forgotten her own worth. You are not alone in this journey. You are not the only one who has forgotten who she is. You are not the only one who needs to remember. Have you been begging for love? Tell me in the comments. Here, you don't need to beg anymore. Here, you are already chosen. Here, you are already enough. Here, you are already home.